All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Dark of the Moon Human Alliance Backfire. A very cool little figure. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this line in general, they did do Human Alliance figures with the previous movie toy lines as well. And before, they kind of started out as just like they were all kind of larger scale figures that were, a different version of characters that actually showed up in the movie. And the main gimmick was, all the cars actually had, a somewhat, detailed interior, and they would come with a little like human figure. But in Dark of the Moon, they did continue to have those figures, but they also had a separate line of scout class figures that in addition to coming with a human and doing all that, they also had a tertiary like weapon mode that could be held by the larger figures. And those are the ones that I always thought were kind of cool. I never really had any interest in the other Human Alliance toys. But yeah, no, Backfire is a pretty cool little figure. He is missing a few bits. Mine is. He came with a couple weapons that were using those like, 3mm clips that they were doing at the time that would just, clip onto the side there. And then obviously he's also missing the human that he came with. I do have one of the Human Alliance humans that came with Sandstorm from, the Scout class range as well, just so you can see kind of how it works out, because they were all basically the same. Just the colors were different and the head sculpts, but they were all the same size, had the same articulation and all of that. And you can see it doesn't really work. Like, obviously, you kind of run into this issue all the time with like, pseudo motorbike transformers where they're just like too big compared to everything else. But he's also too big compared to the figure that he came with. So it doesn't really work. In terms of articulation for these guys, their head was on a swivel. They had universal joints at the shoulders there, nothing at the elbow. The wrists are on swivels. The hips are also on universal joints, but it's pinned up into the body. So, you can't like just rotate the leg out to the side without also rotating it up. And then the knees had hinges. So, just enough articulation to kind of get them in that, pose where they're riding whatever vehicle they're riding. I do appreciate that they do have like wrist swivels, but even with him, it doesn't really work. Like, you can get him on there and you can get like one of the hands clipped onto the handlebar, but just because of the shape of the arms, like they don't really bend this way unless you're really forcing it. So he can only really have like one hand on the handlebars at a time, and his butt is kind of like sitting weirdly off the seat. It doesn't work amazingly, but that I never really was interested in these figures for the compatibility with the actual like humans that they came with. I just liked the little scout class figures, so it's kind of whatever. But again, just he turns into too small of a vehicle to actually function with these guys, because then he has to be like proportionally too large. So it just doesn't really work in my opinion. But other than that, I really do like the vehicle mode. It's a great, little, I don't know what you'd call it. It really does look like a four-wheeler, but just with three wheels. So I guess it's a three-wheeler, and those are a little bit bigger than motorcycles, but not by that much, not like almost the same height as like an average sized person, kind of big. But yeah, it rolls really nicely, has a lot of nice, really, cool little details on here. I like that the seat kind of has like a texture to it, which is cool. But yeah, no, I like the alt mode despite the fact that it doesn't really scale with hardly anything. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for that standard size comparison. And then for a core class motorcycle, here he is with Legacy Iguanus, just so you can see, scout classes, again, like I've said, are a bit bigger than the modern core class, but they're the closest equivalent there. Yeah, to get onto transformation, I'm going to start off by going to his weapon mode, just because it's pretty easy to get to from this mode. But yeah, first thing you want to do is just take the back wheel here and just untab it from itself and kind of splay it out to the side like that. And then you can take this entire front section, it'll kind of unclip from this bit, and then double hinge up like that. And then you can take the wheels here, and you want to do this first because there's, limited clearance in terms of getting these past this bit, and you can't really do it once you fold this over. But you want to rotate them around in this joint so they can just get around to the underside here like that. And then before tabbing them back together, you want to take the front section here and just double hinge it over itself, and it will clip into that gold piece back there. And then you can kind of tab these back together to just sit underneath the gun Obviously, you've got to line up the the pegs there, and then they also want you to flip out this bit. I don't really know what that's supposed to be because this is the barrel of the gun, but I don't know weapons enough to know what that's supposed to be. But yeah, I usually just leave that flipped in because I think it looks worse like that. But you know, to each their own. And then you're supposed to take the little engine block here and kind of double hinge it up like this, and then take the front kind of, you know, bumper, and then flip it up into the body like that, and then take these wheels and fold them to the back like that. And there is Backfire's weapon mode. And, you know, it looks pretty cool. It's hard finding a figure that's like big enough to actually hold it, but you know, it's decent because like you can see here, if we bring back on Sideswipe, you know, it's like he's kind of unwieldy. Like you can peg it into his hand, but it's like the size that he is more or less. So it's like good luck actually getting him to like hold it properly without falling over. The peg on Backfire specifically is on this like rotation joint, so you could rotate it around like that. So you're, you know, like a different figure is like holding it more in the middle. And I feel like for smaller figures, that definitely works better. Like, you know, if you really adjust his joints here, you can probably get him to like stand back and hold it. And that does look kind of cool. It's just, again, a little bit unwieldy. And then the way that these were supposed to work too is that the, you know, the Human Alliance guys were supposed to like have a seat up here to sit in. I've never really thought that made a ton of sense, so I've never really tried it, but I'm pretty sure that the guy is supposed to be able to just like sit in there. And then, you know, obviously if the figure was complete, it would have those like extra guns that it came with, so that this guy would have something to like, you know, interact with. But, you know, I've never thought that was great. You know, they turn into a gun. They don't need a little guy also riding the gun. But yeah, you know, it's decent, but really it works better with like a larger figure. Like if we bring on someone like, you know, Studio Series Ultra Magnus, then it's like, oh, okay, now that we're actually being held by like a big figure, then it's like, yeah, that's a pretty cool looking weapon there if you can get it to stay in his hand. Because like, you know, it's actually proportionally the right size for someone like Magnus. You know, you're kind of limited in how many figures you got that like actually fit that scaling, but like that looks pretty cool. I feel like that works pretty well. He did, again, it is a cool weapon design. It's just unwieldy for like most figures of a reasonable size. But yeah, to get onto the rest of the transformation, to bring him into his robot mode, obviously we'll just close this piece back up. You want to untab the wheels again, but this is kind of where they're going to end up. You want to take the back wheels and just fold them up like this. Take the front bumper section and you kind of bring it out like this. It will sort of double hinge out to the side like that. And then you can take these entire pieces here and double hinge them up. These will end up being the arms. Take the little engine block section and rotate it back to where it was. But before doing that, take the engine itself and kind of push it up to slide out the head. And then that will sit into place like that. Then we can split the legs here. And then just hinge them out to the side like this, so these gold bits kind of flip into the body, and then hinge them back down on the ball joints there, and then just rotate down the arms, do whatever you want with these little weird, you know, roll bar sections. They don't really look like hands no matter what you do, but there we have Backfire in his robot mode. And yeah, generally I think that he looks pretty cool. My main issue with this guy is just that the hands are kind of nothing. Like he just has little weird blocks back here. Like there are sculpted hands in there, but like that doesn't really do it for looking like he's actually got hands. You might as well have these be his hands and that works just as well, which is to say not very. But yeah, the robot mode is probably the weakest part of him, but he does have a cool look. He just doesn't really function all that well. Like in terms of articulation, the head is on a swivel. The shoulders here are on swivels and a hinge out to the side. So he does kind of have that thing where like if you rotate it forward, you can't like rotate it out to the side anymore. You have to like use those joints in tandem. He has an elbow joint, but it's like that much. And also because his, you know, lower arm is pretty much just like a singular block. Like, I don't know what that's really accomplishing. You can fold this piece open and close if you want that to be like part of the hand, I guess. You can kind of do what you want with these wheels. They kind of, you know, stick way off the arms no matter which way you do it, but I generally fold them a little bit down like that. Hips are on ball joints, which can go forward and back and out to the side. He does have a thigh swivel just above the knee. The knee gets 90 degrees of bend, but it does kind of bump into this separate wheel section back here, and that's pretty much it for his articulation. Nothing at the feet or anything. So he's kind of kibbly. He's a little bit limited, but at least he still kind of looks cool. And considering he does, two other alt modes for a scout class figure, I think we can kind of forgive it. But yeah, I would definitely say that the robot mode is the weakest part of this guy. I don't know why this is not like sitting in properly. There we go. Otherwise, he's kind of, the angle of him is, he was kind of standing like off balance where he's leaning off more than one side. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see what he looks like with that, average size modern deluxe. And here he is with Legacy Iguanas, just so you can see what the two of them look like together. And here he is with his little, not his, but Sandstorms, but just so you can see how he compares with the size of the figure that he was supposed to come with there. And then just for posterity's sake, here he is with Ultra Magnus again, for whatever that's worth. But yeah, no, he's a fun little figure. I like this line in general. I think he pretty much has my favorite of the weapon modes of the ones that I have. And the alt mode is pretty good, but the robot mode is kind of weak. I like the design of it, but the way that the arms are just little chunks and the legs are so super kibbly, it's just not incredible, but that's okay because he does have a really cool looking weapon mode and a pretty cool looking alt mode. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Dark of the Moon Human Alliance Backfire.